Okay, here's a funny one. This is a fragment of the side of a door, style of the door. This is the side that the lock set's on. Someone tried to break into the building and kicked the snot out of the door. In the process, they split the part of the door that had the lock set in it in half. You can see the fresh cut break in these pieces of wood. I'm missing a couple pieces. They splintered the crap out of it. This is all split. You can see. Okay, this is the piece. Once you take the door apart, I had some real difficulty taking the door apart. So I just took this side of the stile that was no good anymore. It was a mess, and I cut it into pieces and cut the pieces off so I could take the door apart. In the process of trying to slide the door apart, what made me cut it was I was having so much trouble getting the door slid apart. Now typically there are pegs driven in, holes drilled through where the tenons go through the stile, holes drilled through, pegs driven in, wedges driven in. I've got a peg still, you know, this is wooden pegs driven in the holes, locking the door together. It all works really well. I took two pegs out there. Typically they're four. One high and low, close to the stile and rail connection, and another more in the middle, in between. I scraped and looked, and I couldn't find sign of any peg. That was curious. I tried knocking the door apart. It wouldn't go up. It wouldn't move. So heck of it, I cut it. When I did, I realized that the door had been split. The stile had been split. Now I knew this part was split. I've got it taped a little bit, but I could see the fresh break there. But here you can see that the piece of wood was broken and oxidized. You can see that this doesn't look like fresh break like that does right there. This is oxidized. This has been broken for a long time. I would suggest now that it's been broken forever. It turns out what had happened was when they made this door back in 1805, when they made the door, they had a problem with this piece of wood and they used it anyway. I'm holding it together because it's splintered at this point, but you can see an old crack right there running through the bottom of the stile. I don't know how it happened. It could be that when they had the whole door put together and they were driving the wedges in and they cracked this piece, or it was cracked and they noticed it for the first time. They had way too much invested in the construction of the door. They were about to peg it, drove these two pegs in and said, that's it. I can't peg, it won't do any good to peg through a cracked part of the door. And they got out two screws and they drove a screw in from this side, pretty much where the peg would go. They drove a screw through this side and they drove another screw, it's not always see the same hands, through the other side down at the bottom. We'll see it in just a second. It's underneath here. I've never taken it out. It's right there. You can see the stub of the screw. Now these are handmade screws. They're hand-cut screws. If you notice, in typical 19th century, early 19th century fashion, they don't have a point, a little pig's tail, a gimlet point, and the slot in them is really off center and hand cut. These are handmade screws that they used to hold the bottom of this stile of the door together. They had to drill a hole because there's no point on the screw, and they drove these two screws in, one from this side and one from this side, through where it was broken to hold this stile together. And the truth is, it held up just fine until I went to take it apart 213 years later. Kind of a funny thing. I'm going to save this because it's just too cool. The idea of somebody using something that was already broken and they knew it was already broken, just trying to get by with it. And they did. It worked fine for a long time. It wasn't until somebody finally kicked the thing so hard that I had to take it apart that we even knew that that had happened. Just thought you'd like to know. Handmade screws, holding a door together in an old building. Great fun.